What's up, you guys? So I wasn't gonna do this video because there's like 3 or 4 other versions of this video online already, but you guys wanted to see it. You guys wanted my opinion, and I do travel probably to the most events, so I'm here to make this video. And if I hear one more friggin' time it's not a prank, bro, I swear to God, but it is actually not a prank. We're gonna talk about how to beat the living crap out of prank kids. The deck won the YCS. We know. It's old news by now. We know that, like, everyone's talking about it. Everyone's picking up the deck, and guess what? You're not going to be good with the deck. And I say that because it's a lot of hype, and I think a lot of people, unless you actually know how the deck works and you know every interaction, like the guy who won, you're not going to be successful with it. And people are going to notice that once you realize how easy it is to actually beat this deck, you're going to be like, oh man, why did I spend 3 times the amount of on this deck? The deck is literally tripled in price is what I've heard. Like, the deck was like nothing, and now it's triple the price. That's crazy. Anyways, we're here to talk about it. Don't worry about where I'm at. It's cold. That's all you need to know. That's why I got a puff coat on. It's freaking cold. But we're going to talk about it. Now, I'm going to break it down really simple. The monsters, the spells, and the traps that beat the deck. I'm not going over the monsters. That's how I used to do this series. And that's like a lot of just like wasted talking time. Like, I just want to get straight to the meat and potatoes of this. How you beat the deck. How you counter the deck. It's not as hard as you think. All you need to know is all these freaking little prank kids, they float. They all float like it. They all float. So literally, all you have to do is be able to stop them from floating or stop them from adding back, stop them from recurring, and you're good to go. So I'm going to start with hand traps. I think hand traps are the most like obvious ways, like they're the most probably like popular things we put into our main decks or side decks. And we're just going to run down the ones that I think are good. I don't think every hand trap is good, and I'm just going to break them down. So I always start with Ash Blossom. I don't think the card's that good. I really don't. Don't think the card is that good at all. I feel that yes, it can hit Prank Kid's Place when they add a card, but other than that, the card sucks. Prank Kid's Place has like 3 other effects, hitting your monsters, hitting their monsters. It's one of the best cards to chain block, and Ash Blossom, all it does is stop the adding. Like, yes, that's fine, but they still get the other effects, so I don't really like that much. So I think the only time Ash Blossom will be good is if you Ash and they literally have no other play. Like, I honestly think sometimes you might be better Ashing the Terraforming, like, in all honesty, because, I mean, you're either going to be at that point playing against Prank Kids, Draco, Trickstar, or I don't know, whatever else plays spells, or the Invoke deck. And like, I mean, if you want to Ash that, you Ash that. I still don't think Ash is that good, but I put it in here because it is a card that we're all main deck and we might as well utilize it. The only card you can really hit, to my knowledge, is being able to Ash the add a Prank Kid's Place, and who knows, maybe that'll be enough. Okay, next hand trap. So I wanted to talk about Gamma. I always talk about Gamma. I think Gamma is like whatever, to be honest. I'm not huge on it, but I feel like its interaction is not terrible. It can hit them when they float. I think it's really specific if your deck can play it, though. I feel it's strictly a going second card, unless you're main decking it and your deck does go second. I feel like when they like sack off Rocket, or they sack off Butler, or they sack off the dog, or any of them to trigger their effect, I feel like if you can Gamma that, that's pretty strong. Because what that does is that'll cut them off from adding back, or that'll cut them off from from special summoning to, continue their link or fusion plays. So I think Gamma's pretty solid. I honestly am a huge advocate of Gamma, like almost every format, and this format especially, because I talked about how strong the card was for me against like pretty much every matchup, and I still stand by that. I think the card is good against every matchup, and I think it's really good against this deck as long as you hit the right cards. Like, don't waste it like on a simple float of like the regular monsters, because they'll both float. So remember that. When they fuse, both monsters are going to float. You can Gamma one, but you can't Gamma the other. So remember that. Like, you can only Gamma one. So I think it's a lot better to Gamma the fusion when it tags out, because when it tags out, they lose all those resources they would get back. So that's why I think Gamma is really cool. But I think overall, oh, I'll add DD Crow in there too, yeah. So DD Crow is cool. You can just Crow, when they activate something or try to target something in Grave, you can Crow it. That's cool. I threw it in there. I was going to mix it with Called by the Grave, but we'll do that when we get to the spells. But I think DD Crow is cool. I think DD Crow has applications. I think DD Crow is a card a lot of people are starting to realize is actually good this format, so it's a card to definitely remember. I think it stood the test of time as one of the best cards just in the game and one of the best side deck options. So being able to cut off the graveyard is cool. So I had to include DD Crow, even for just a little bit. But I think hands down, the best hand trap against them, and I never thought I would say this, because honestly, I never thought the card was that good. I'll be straight up honest. I didn't think the card was that good. But that is Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. That's right. That's the best hand trap against them. Valor sucks against them, but not Ghost Bell. Ghost Bell hits the 2 main effects. whenever they would special from grave or add cards from the grave. That's huge. You being able to cut off Rocket or Butler or the Doggy or whatever, the Rooster, I don't even know all their freaking names. I just call them what I call them. But you literally can bell it, and it's huge. And I feel that it's a huge swing in tempo. It's like when you bell a Kagari. It's like the same thing. Like, it's better, though, for this because they sack off the monster, you bell it, and, like, that's it. Like, it's so ridiculous. Like, it's literally ridiculous. You just bell it, and it cuts them off completely, and I think that's huge. I think a lot of people don't realize that Bell is actually amazing against this deck because, like, cards like Impermanence, cards like Veiler, they just suck. Like, all the monsters can tribute off, all the monsters can float in the graveyard, and Impermanence and Veiler don't do anything to the graveyard, so... Overall, I think Bell is without a doubt probably the best hand trap against them. That card is so good against them. I'm in shock. Like, I'm actually in shock because I was never a huge fan of that card, but it's definitely a card to remember. And I'm just going to mention Kaijus for a brief second. I mean, I guess you can just Kaiju them, but I mean, your deck would have to be playing Kaijus. I mean, I guess it's not a terrible option if you can, like, Kaiju them, and then if you're playing, like, the BA deck, Hydrolander, or BLS them to death, underclock them to death, and just win the game. Like, if that works, that works if your deck can support it. I mean, it's fine, I guess, to hit one of their fusions because then nothing happens, nothing floats, nothing comes back, nothing gets added back to hand, they get no advantage, so it's not the worst card. I honestly think I mentioned cards like Gamma and Kaijus in every video about, like, best cards of the format because they just do everything. They do everything you want them to do. They get rid of problematic monsters. It's just in a different way, in a very simple fashion that doesn't take away your normal summon, which I like. So, Kaijus will always be in there. So, the last card I'm going to talk about is Abyss Dweller. Who the hell is summoning Abyss Dweller in 2018? Tell me, what deck is summoning it? Is it Sky Strikers? Nope. Is it Thunder Dragons? Nope. Is it Altergeist? Nope. Is it freaking Burning Abyss? Nope. I don't see any deck consistently summoning Dweller. I mean, I guess you can summon the only deck that summons it is Pendulum Magicians. So outside of that, I put it here just because everyone's gonna be like, oh, Slim, you forgot Dweller. I didn't forget Dweller. I just think Dweller is just a card like not enough decks summon, but I'll throw it in there if your deck summons it. If you play Pendulum Magicians, you can summon it. I mean, if the game ever gets to the point where I've got 2 Batteryman Solars and I need to overlay them, I already lost. So just remember that. But I put Dweller in there because yes, it does cut off the whole graveyard. All right, that's it for the monsters. On the spells, there's a couple spells. Call by the Grave. Card's amazing. Card just is so ridiculous. It's back at 3. The card is amazing. It not only catches hand traps, it catches every single one of the fusions that sacks off, and you hit it for the fusions. Don't waste your time on the monsters. Wait for the fusion. Call by the Grave. It's ridiculous. Hit the Rocket. Hit the Cockadoodle-Doo thing. Hit the freaking, the Rooster. Hit the Dog. Hit whatever. Call by the Grave. Negate it. Banish it. They don't get a damn thing, and it's broken. So I think Call by the Grave is amazing. Like, need I say more? I'm so happy that card's back at 3 because not only does it catch hand traps, it catches other monsters as well. So card is very, very solid. So next we have Forbidden Graveyard or Silent Graveyard. See what happens. See what happens when you literally talk about a card and give it like its fake name. That's what happens. But frickin' Silent Graveyard. So Silent Graveyard or Forbidden Graveyard, whatever, I think is a great card. We saw how powerful it was against Gokis. Anything that just turns off all their graveyard effects is nuts. So like if they activate Polymerization or something from hand, you chain Forbidden Graveyard and they literally just, they get no advantage. Now granted, they're able to still get their monster, but they get no floatability, and I notice when the deck doesn't get its floating going, like, the deck just loses a lot of steam, a lot of power, so I think being able to hit it with, like, Silent Graveyard or anything like that is awesome, so definitely a big fan of that. I like that strategy a lot. Like, that's a really cool side deck card for sure. Other things, like, my main cards, like, that I mentioned, because I have, like, a little list of them here, like, cards I think that are really good against it. It's cards like that, but I also have, like, some old school cards. I have Defissure. So I put Defissure just because you never know if a deck will play it. There was a Thunder Dragon deck at the YCS that played it. In the main deck, you can side deck it along with Macro, and it just shuts off the whole graveyard. They all get banished. Like, what are they going to do? They all get banished. They have no floatability at that point. So anything that locks out the graveyard is pretty solid. So I just thought I'd throw it in there. That's pretty much all my spells. Like, there's not that many spells I would really say are that great against it. I think you just need stuff that hits the graveyard. I think there's more, like, traps and more, like, stuff like that that can really hit the deck hand trap-wise. And I'm trying to think realistically, what are we really going to put in our side decks? We're not dedicating crappy cards that only hit one deck. I want cards that basically just, like, overall hit everything, so that's why this list is being compiled. So overall, those cards hit everything. But when we get to the traps, which we're going to do right now, the traps are, like, the best cards. rivalry, and goes in. The end. The end. Like, literally, the end. There are a bunch of different attributes. There are a bunch of different types. They get fucked by these cards. These cards are insane. I'm not going to say anything else. Read the cards. They beat the deck. There's also, I already mentioned Macrocosmos. Same thing as D-Fissure. I know it's a one-of, but, you know, same thing. I guess I'll even throw Soul Drain in there. Soul Drain, Macro, they're one-ofs, fun-ofs. They work. Like, they work. If your deck can support it, I mean, why not? Like, I feel like decks like True Draco and stuff like that can play cards like that, because not only can they play them in the deck as stun cards and floodgate cards, they can literally just sack them off for their cards, so it's pretty broken. But I had to include them. I didn't want to forget them. Another card I think that's really good is Evenly Matched. Now, Evenly Matched is obviously strictly going second. What I like about this card is that you evenly them, and then they're left with one card. And even if they tag out, they're still losing cards. So if they tag out, they're bad, because they're just going to lose more cards in the process. So evenly matching them, evenly matching them is good. Like, you're able to you know, take away a lot of the resources, bring them down to your level, and then you're able to win because you just got all your advantage back. So, evenly match, I had to mention it. You always mention it in like every video. That pretty much is everything. And then the last card I'll talk about is D-Barrier. So this is obvious. They're fusion based. Like, you just wait though. You wait for them to go Polymerization or Invocation. You just flip it, call fusions. They lose the poly. They don't get anything. All they can do at that point is link, and I mean, their links are fine, but they always are trying to go into their fusions. So they play cards like Instant Fusion, Polymerization, Invocation, and you just stop all of that with a single D-Barrier, and you buy yourself a turn. And I feel a lot of times the way these decks are this format, especially if you're playing like Thunder Dragons or BA or you know, any deck like that, you can just OTK the opponent on that turn and just win. So I think that's really solid. I also think decks like Striker and Altergeist can just flip D-Barrier. I mean, if you D-Barrier chain Faker, the game's over, but that's neither here nor there, but that's pretty broken actually. But you can just set up enough of your control board that you're just going to win regardless. So it's pretty strong. But overall, those are my cards. Like I said, video's been made by many channels. You guys just wanted my opinion. We probably all mentioned the same cards because, let's face it, it's pretty general common knowledge, like how to beat this deck. Like I said, I think the deck is a bunch of hype. I'm not going to deny it. I think the deck is fantastic. But I'm telling you guys right now, if you literally got on the bandwagon and think that this is going to be the best deck, you are solely mistaken. Sky Strikers is still a better deck. Any time of the day, their engine is still superior, and yes, they have a good matchup against Striker, but that doesn't mean everything. The minute you put in these side deck cards like we talked about, the deck loses a lot of steam. And I think it's not a great deck to pick up because all eyes are on Prank Kids right now. Everyone is preparing for that deck, and most of these cards I mentioned are either in the side deck or they might even be in the main deck. So if you know what to hit, thanks to videos like this and, you know, Simo's video, Callie's video, everyone's video that talks about how to beat this deck, you guys are going to be successful. I think overall, fantastic deck. I'm glad it won the YCS. I think it's really hyped right now, and I think that sucks because the surprise factor is gone. And since the surprise factor is gone, I think a lot of people are going to know how to beat it. Thanks to videos like this, you're going to know how to beat it. And thanks to pretty much common sense, you're going to know how to beat this. Shut off their graveyard. Stop them from floating. You're going to win the game, and you're going to be just fine. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to, you know, give it a like. And yeah, I know you guys like the face videos, and even when it's cold and I got a puff coat on, you know, we do our thing. But overall, those are my thoughts, and I think a lot of people have the same thoughts as I do. I want to thank all the subscribers that contributed to this. I posted in the community tab, and that's another reason I made this video, is because of you guys. You guys contributed all of these ideas to me, and we basically shared a lot of the same stuff, and I think overall we came up with a fantastic list. Of course, I'm sure there's stuff I forgot. So just leave it in the comments below. What cards did I forget? What are the cards you're using to combat this deck? What are cards in the main deck that you're using to combat this deck that are just generally good against everything? I wanted cards that I feel are played in more than just the side deck. They're cards you can main deck, and they're cards that you can use to basically blanket to other matches, and I think that's what the difference between good siding and bad siding is. But overall, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching.